get a peek at the new NHL for current-gen consoles. I have some thoughts on Psychonauts 2, and we have SpiderMan leaks and Halo delays. All that and the latest and everything cool today in the Rundown. Hey, welcome to the Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and it's so great to see you here in the Electric Playground. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They have tournaments happening every single weekend that you don't want to miss out on, and you can find out all about them at tgs.gg. Okay, today's episode is dedicated to Vandecoop, who said, "What a treat this podcast is indeed. I couldn't help but adore your description under the video. Like, wow, what a listening to talk about all things Star Wars, including The Bad Batch, Republic Commando, The Force Unleashed, The Clone Wars, the original trilogy, The Mandalorian, Dave Filoni, George Lucas, and so much more. Literally all topics I know and love a lot and can't wait to know a lot more about. Thank you for doing all this, Vic." Thank you, Vandecoop. You made my day with your comments under the podcast. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I had a total blast talking with Sam Witwer and Dave Collins. And yes, it is a love letter to all things Star Wars. So if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely check out the podcast. It's a lot of fun. All right, let's get started with the rundown. And we're going to start with NHL 22. EA's dropped the trailer for the brand new NHL 22, which comes out in mid-October, and boy, this game is looking very sweet indeed. It now employs the Frostbite engine, and there isn't a whole bunch of details on the new features being added, but I think what this trailer is really here to do for all of us is show us how much work EA Sports and EA Vancouver has been putting into the visuals of this franchise. It really does look beautiful. The speed, the intensity, the facial animations, the ice spray everywhere, a little bit of pond hockey. We see the new Seattle arena there for the Kraken, which is kind of cool. And we also get a sense that there's going to be these X-Factor moves as part of the superstar abilities with the players within the NHL. All of it looks really damn interesting and inviting, and I think that it's done a good job at creating that hype for this game. I am excited to play this. It's kind of like the first steps into this current generation of consoles, because remember, there was no PS5 or Xbox Series X version or specific version of NHL last year. So this is really the first kick at EA moving and transitioning to the more modern consoles. It's still going to be playable on previous machines, so it's going to have to kind of keep its foot planted, or its skates planted in both generations, at least this year's model. But yeah, EA is moving towards a lot more fidelity and a lot more horsepower under the hood to play with. So can't wait for NHL 22. Comes out October 15th. Let's talk about something else that's coming up pretty soon, and that is the brand new Halo, but it's coming out not exactly as we had hoped. 343 Industries recently had a video update for Halo Infinite fans, giving people a better idea of what is going to be available with the game when it comes out at launch. They had Joseph Staten step up. He's the creative director, sort of overseeing a lot of the creative vision around Halo, but it's such a huge game. It's an industry unto itself with all of these different silos. And what came out of the update is that co-op will not be ready at launch. It will come out when it's ready. They're not really sort of specifying dates on any of this, but they are saying that Halo Infinite is going to come out this holiday season, so in 2021, and then in early 2022 we can expect co-op. And the other thing that they have pushed back on is Forge, which will give people the opportunity to customize Halo in a bunch of different ways. Forge has always been a really sensational aspect of the Halo universe and the mythology around Halo, and that's a little bit disappointing to fans because we've been waiting for Halo Infinite for a very, very long time. But Joseph Staten was pretty clear that this was about, Halo Infinite launching and that just being the beginning of the product.
Halo Infinite is a live game, so it isn't really ever done. You know what I mean? It's going to progress and evolve from season to season. We talk about launch being the beginning of that journey, but to have a beginning, you need to pick a moment and actually begin, So ultimately, we decided we've been working on this game for a really long time. Our fans have been waiting for this game for a really long time, with solo, campaign, and our first season of free-to-play multiplayer in really good shape for holiday. We didn't want to delay anymore, but let's get started And, we'll continue to evolve from there, season to season.
It makes sense. I think conceptually we can understand it, that there's going to be quite a bit to dig into with Halo Infinite. Maybe some of the thinking is that people will want to enjoy the campaign and the story individually, and then to go back with friends and play it in a cooperative kind of setting, play through it all over again, and have a more focus on the action and the co-op experience as opposed to sort of sitting down and watching all the cut sequences and being sort of led through a tale, which makes sense because I think what happens with a lot of co-op stuff, and I recently encountered this as I was playing Aliens Fireteam Elite with Bear Safi. Bear and I were just kibitzing and talking about all things going on in our life as we're blasting at all of these aliens, and I think that's part of the co-op. It's a social thing, right? So I kind of get that. It is disappointing that it's not all going to come together in one giant, enormous package, but I think that there's going to be enough in the release for people to really sink their teeth into. Like every Halo fan out there, I have really got my fingers crossed. I really hope that this just is one of the best games of the year. I hope it's a contender for Game of the Year, even with some of these missing ingredients. People have clearly been working hard on this game for a very, very long time. It's been tumultuous, but signs are positive. The tech test went over really well. Microsoft and 343 got some great feedback on that. Hopefully, Halo Infinite does deliver, and even if it's over a long stretch like a lot of other live games right now, hopefully it keeps people entertained the whole way, including me. I want to be entertained too. Let me know what you think about the delays associated with Halo Infinite. Are you okay with them? Are you bummed out? Do you have other concerns? Let me know in the comments below. All right, let's shift over to some of my thoughts now on Madden NFL 22. I've been playing Madden NFL 22 off and on my PlayStation 5 over the last week, and I have been having a good time. Clearly, EA has spent a lot more time embellishing and making the on-field drama kind of come to life in some bigger ways. It still has a foot or, a cleated shoe in the previous gen as well, so they're still contending with how do we make this game kind of work across generations. But I think generally this is a pretty substantial upgrade even from last year, and I had a good time playing last year's game. The yard is back this time, but it seems to be a little less garish, a little less crazy with some of the outfits and stuff that people are wearing. We've got a Hawaii field now, which is quite beautiful. And of course, what happens is you can create a character and you can run through kind of like the season of the yard, but then also take it into the face of the franchise mode, which is a little janky, but still fun. Like some of the animations between the conversations and stuff just feel a little stilted, and some of the dialogue and stuff misfires a little bit. It just doesn't suck you in like some of the best stories in games have. I think EA even did a much better I forget the name of the story mode that they had in Madden a few years ago, but it was great. And so it feels like they let off the gas there. And where I think Madden has spent the most amount of time and focus on is making people happier with the franchise mode, which has gotten a whole bunch of new embellishments. And they've also done something where there's like taking cues from college football. Remember those old NCAA football games that EA used to make, where the mania that you would feel inside from the crowd was actually, would affect the feel and sometimes the outcome of some of the matches. And that's kind of brought back into here. There's like a momentum based on how into it the crowds are, which I liked quite a bit. There are also some real-time modifiers based on performance on the field, which is really quite fun. They're going to be adding scouting as a free update, and that's the other thing too. EA is kind of, they added a lot of patches and changes and fixes to 21, and so 22 kind of picks up with a lot of those lessons learned, but they're also promising to keep adding new pieces and content to 22 as it goes on. Franchise is kind of a live experience as well. Scouting is going to be a freebie added to the gameplay, which is pretty cool. So people, as they're playing their seasons and they're playing week to week, they're still going to be getting some new enhancements and stuff. Of course, Ultimate Team is included in there. It's the moneymaker for Madden. So if you want to continue buying packs and competing against people online, you can continue to do that. I think that there's an appreciable refinement from last year, and I haven't played so much Madden that I can get into the minutia and the nitty-gritty details, and I can't pick it apart on some of the AI decisions on all the plays and all that stuff. I've just been playing it and having a good time with it, and I feel like there's a tremendous amount of content in there. Do I think EA would benefit from some stiff competition in a, like another traditional football sim competitor out there? Absolutely. Do I think it's a bit crazy that we have the Yard as this more arcadey 6-on-6 experience included with Madden, but EA also owns NFL Blitz, and Blitz is just sitting there doing nothing? Meanwhile, the folks over at 2K Sports are apparently working on some kind of arcadey football experience. Maybe that's the kind of move here, is that Blitz will come back after they see what 2K does with their arcade football game. Yes, it's not perfect, it's not ideal. It would be great to see some competition, but at the end of the day, I think there's still a tremendous amount of content in Madden, and there's still a lot of fun to be had, especially if you play against other people, whether you play online or you do some couch competition. That's the way the game is really meant to be played. I think a lot of people enjoy the challenge of the computer, but you can always bust through the computer. You can always pick your favorite plays. I was landing a lot of Hail Mary passes like I always do every year. Defense felt pretty cool, though. It felt great to whip around the offensive line and get in there for some sacks and stuff. And it looks really good. Like the on-field action looks really good. Sometimes you get a little bit of the doll eye effect where players aren't looking in quite the right direction, and some of the facial animations and stuff could be tuned and improved. There's so much detail that the EA folks are putting on field. I still think that in terms of visual fidelity, the NBA 2K team, the FIFA team, and the MLB The Show team are doing a better job at realizing and capitalizing on the visual cues of those specific sports than Madden is, but it's still a looker. It still looks great, and I can't wait to see what the NHL team does now that they're on the Frostbite engine as well. So I think you kind of know if Madden is for you or not. I think if you haven't been playing any of the Madden stuff, you've got the new machines and you want to play some football, you're going to have a good time with this. If you're a diehard, pick it up every year and find lots to complain about every year, you're still going to find lots to complain about in Madden NFL 22. From what I've played, though, I really am enjoying it. I love the soundtrack as well. It's really, really slick. It's also much more refined in the UI department, and I like the integration with the two QBs. You got Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes in there. It's just stylish. And I've been having fun. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Now, something that rocked Hollywood yesterday, particularly the folks over at Sony and Marvel, is that Spider-Man No Way Home had a trailer leak out there on social media. Somebody recorded off of another screen and then posted it to TikTok or something like that. And of course, that hit Twitter and YouTube and all kinds of things. I'm sure you can still find it if you want to. I did see it on somebody's tweet. It was embedded in a tweet, and it was just blocky and really hard to decipher what the hell was going on. It looked like some of the effects for this teaser weren't done, so maybe this was shot in some kind of an editing suite or something like that. It's awful that this leaked. It spread like crazy and people were talking about it everywhere. It was trending all over the place. I retweeted a different video of Spider-Man dancing, twerking, and it was really funny. You should watch that video. But I think what you should do is wait for Sony to reveal and Marvel to reveal the full trailer, the full teaser, and we get a sense of it. There are going to be some cool shocks and surprises in there. But honestly, I could barely decipher what the hell was going on. So don't search this out. That's my recommendation for you. Wait for the real deal. All right, I've got a review for you now of War for Wakanda, which is the expansion content for Marvel's Avengers game developed by Crystal Dynamics. Played this on the PlayStation 5. I played all the way through it. In fact, I streamed the entire thing from beginning to end on EPN's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/EPN. And the whole chunk of content, it was all the story-based piece of content, so I didn't get any multiplayer embellishment after I played the story stuff. But I got a good sense of the feel of the War for Wakanda. And I got to tell you, the story setup and the cut sequences, absolutely beautiful in this game. Definitely worth checking out. And the combat as Black Panther was wonderful as well. To play as T'Challa, he has got some incredibly athletic and acrobatic moves and some great projectile weaponry and some cool, supers that he can pull off. I was really getting into playing as the Black Panther and really enjoying the process. Unfortunately, the game does get mired down in the repetitive kind of mission structure and enemy creations that this game is kind of notorious for. And even though this isn't a long piece of DLC compared comparative to like the full length of games out there, it started to kind of wear on me. And you can feel it when you watch my stream. By the end of it, I was just like, oh my God, I want this to be over. And it wasn't because I didn't like the setting or the character or the moves or the feeling of power that the game effectively creates for you, or even, the storytelling aspects and the production value. The script is great, and the voiceover, and the sense of impending doom for Wakanda was really well represented. But it's mired in, you're beating up robots after robots after robots and spider bots, and things will just magically spawn, and you just got to take those characters out, and then you'll see the same characters spawn, and it's, over and over and over again. It's like a blender that's just stuck on repeat. It's just blending and blending and blending, and eventually I got to kind of like the end sequence and the boss sequence, and of course the checkpoint structure there was kind of weighted to you failing a few times and extending the length of the core experience, but I wasn't really happy at the end of it. And I feel like that's kind of, like a microcosm of the entire Avengers experience. Like, there's such excellent work in this game. The character mechanics for all of the characters are really cool, and they do great heroics in cool areas. Each character's got a great sense of mobility and super cool athleticism and jumps and flips and swings and characters that can fly and lots of great acrobatic stuff as Black Panther. But each of the sections overstays its welcome because you're just fighting the same things over and over again, and there's just this huge emphasis on robotic technology, which just gets so tiresome. You just don't ever feel like there's a connection to the supervillain kind of threat there. It just feels so ubiquitous and spammy. It just feels like the designers were just spamming the bots, over and over and over again. That was true when I played through the story structure stuff in the original Avengers releases, and on all of the DLC that I played along the way. I've played all the Hawkeye stuff as well, and that's also true, even though it's more, I think, deftly presented in the War for Wakanda than ever before. It's also true in the core game experience. I loved my fight with Claw. I loved the way that he's integrated into the story, and the relationship between Shuri and T'Challa is all really cool. It's definitely an amazing free addition to the game, and maybe the way that I played it and streamed it all in kind of one sitting isn't the best way to appreciate the game. Maybe it's a game to kind of nibble at in general, even this DLC. But yeah, I uninstalled it. I beat it. I'm not really interested in going and jumping back into the multiplayer stuff, and it's unfortunate, like that was a real opportunity for Marvel and Crystal Dynamics to build something that would make us all want to dive back in. I'm not saying that I hate it or that I'll never revisit it, and if I can't wait to see what they do with Spider-Man. I think there's such excellent work in there. It's too much and too little at the same time. There's too much stuff in it, and there's too much repetition in it. And that's also true for the War for Wakanda. I appreciate a lot of it, but I certainly wasn't crazy about it. I would give the War for Wakanda expansion for Marvel's The Avengers a 7 out of 10. And speaking of Marvel, they also recently released a brand new final trailer for the new film The Eternals, which Chloe Zhao is directing, and it definitely looks different than all of the other Marvel stuff that's out there, partially because I know nothing about these Eternals characters, but what we get in this trailer is a sense of what they've been up to as Thanos wiped out 50% of the universe's inhabitants and life everywhere, and then the heroes of Earth were able to change the course of history and bring everybody back. And so we see that the Eternals are even mightier than Earth's mightiest heroes, and they've just been sort of watching back in awe and wonder, and there's an expression of love for the humanity of Earth expressed in this trailer, which was beautiful. But I don't know anything about these characters, so I have really no feeling about what the hell is going on. I barely know the names of the characters that these actors are playing. I think Kit Harington is playing Blackguard. So this movie has got a lot of work to do. I think it's smart on the part of Marvel to not over-trailer us and not show us all the things, but I think maybe a little Eternals history video is going to start popping up to kind of bring us up to speed a little bit. This is all based on Jack Kirby's work with Marvel and his ability to kind of get very cosmic. We also get a tiny little taste of the next big bad that is going to be a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it does look huge and creepy, but it's not Galactus. It's a Celestial. I don't know enough about this part of the Marvel Universe, and I'm excited to learn more. But let me know what you think. Are you hyped for the Eternals? And if you know about the Eternals, is Marvel handling the cinematic, interpretation of these tales to your liking so far? Let me know in the comments below. And I've got one more pseudo review for you. This is for Psychonauts 2, and I've put in about 5 or 6 hours, so I haven't really played enough to kind of score the thing, but I can tell you that it is wonderful, and I will fully back up a lot of the great scores that this game is already receiving as of today. It is a tour de force from Double Fine, and it's also an incredible statement on the part of what these relationships with Microsoft and their mountains of money is going to mean for some quirky game ideas out there. Because let's face it, Psychonauts 1 is a cult classic, but it, didn't light the world on fire. Not everybody has played it. I have played it, but I have never finished the first game. Now I really want to because of the quality of Psychonauts 2. Now it feels like this permanent franchise. That's the quality level that we're talking about here with Psychonauts 2. Like a lot of Tim Schafer-led type experiences, it's an incredibly well-written tale. It's got adventure game leanings with adventure game story hooks and a comedic sensibility about it. Like if you were a fan of Grim Fandango or the Monkey Island type of experiences, you are going to be right at home in the way that the story is presented in Psychonauts 2. It's a dense tale filled with interesting characters and a lot of examination at different aspects of our culture and the way that, we deal with mental health and physical health. One of the things that I found quite shocking, but also in typical Double Fine / Tim Schafer fashion, also hilarious, is that there's a hospital sequence in the game, but the hospital is also a casino. And so you'll be in a sequence where you're betting on horse races inside of this hospital casino. And you've got characters running across on an EKG line, on heart meters, basically. And there's little sort of dark humor bits like that all the way through. It's about characters sort of digging into psychosis and examining fears. There's also a tremendous amount of platform-style collecting that's going on. You're collecting figments of imagination. You're collecting half a mind and putting another half of a mind together. You're collecting elements that give you psychic abilities and powers. So you've got the ability to lift things with your mind, or burn things with your mind, or shoot things with your mind, or zip to different areas and try to put two distinct thoughts together to change an outlook on a character. It's a little trippy, right? Because there's this meta world where you're walking around and then you're also jumping into the minds of these different characters, and everybody's got their own phobias and their own fears. And the game gives you a tremendous amount of stuff to chew on, but it's also a beautifully crafted experience. Like, the visuals are excellent. They're really, really lovely. This is approaching CG animated film quality stuff. You can see all the texture details and the fibers on the clothing and the expressions in faces and the hair bouncing and stuff. And the characters are all distinct and super deformed, interestingly crafted, almost Tim Burton-esque creations, but beautifully, beautifully captured. And also the tuning and the timing on the action elements is there. You're not going to mistake this for a Ratchet and Clank experience. You're not going to feel like you're fighting bosses that are the best in the genre, but that fusion of that adventure-style storytelling and the sort of dense collection of really interesting characters and this really enjoyable and satisfying action platformer type gameplay is really wonderful. I mean, we don't have a lot of games that tell stories that are this rich with this kind of accessibility in their gameplay. And so, my hat's off to everybody at Double Fine. They've really crafted something very cool, but also to Microsoft, because this was a kind of wild out there announcement that this was going to be one of the stable of developers. But this bodes well for the future of what is going to come out of first party at Xbox. A game that may not have been quite as tuned and quite as polished as it is because of the benefits of this relationship is now out there in the wild, and you're going to see, especially you Game Pass players out there, you're going to be able to just download this game to your Xboxes, and you're going to be very impressed at the quality of production and the quality of experience that Psychonauts 2 delivers. Yeah, I'm not going to score it, but don't miss this one. Don't sleep on Psychonauts 2. And, the amazing thing is Psychonauts 1 is also on Game Pass, so if you've never played this franchise before, welcome to a brave new world from Double Fine. Very cool stuff. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with some fresh stuff for you tomorrow. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button and that little bell to be notified. Thank you for following our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/EPN. We will see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.